Hello, my name is Mark Taylor and welcome to the Education on Fire podcast. The place for creative and inspiring learning from around the world. Listen to teachers, parents and mentors share how they are supporting children to live their best authentic life and are proving to be a guiding light to us all. Hello, my name is Mark Taylor and welcome back to the Education on Fire podcast. I hope 2020 has started very well for you. For me, it's been a time of reflection. It's been a time of consolidation and actually deciding how my life is going to look over this next coming year. Partly based on a very busy Christmas. I was working in Chichester Festival Theatre doing their Christmas show and also managing the musicians and the band. And one of the things that I'm really passionate about is actually having an environment and communities of people that I work for that really love what they're doing. And that was really emphasised this last week or so when we brought our Gilbert and Sullivan band together. That the core of those people have been playing for us for 20 years, and we had such a fantastic concert of a G&S Gala, which was a wonderful thing to be able to do. I was also offered and have taken a new teaching job at a wonderful school with great opportunities to really support children to learn drums, to learn percussion, and to sort of really build up their musical knowledge in a way that I've not been able to do before, just because of the facilities and the situation offered to me. So it was something that I really wanted to embrace, and that's taken a little bit of my time, hence the reason we're starting slightly later in 2020 than I first imagined we would be. The other thing that's happened is I've had people asking me quite a lot about what Education on Fire is, and of course over the last year or so it's been a podcast network. We've had 3 shows. We've had Education on Fire, which has been here, and of course we've done that in themed seasons. We've had Learning on Fire, where I was sort of interviewing people and they were telling us how they were living life on their terms and how they were successful and being fulfilled. But the essence of all of those 2 things was actually, what is it that people do that they love? What is it that they were able to do that made them fulfilled? What's that fire, that passion that really makes them alive? And that's the sort of thing that we've been sharing on all the podcasts, because that's the type of thing, whether it's in the environment in school or whether it's actually part and parcel of your daily life, that actually is the essence of who we are, the authenticity of actually what it is that we want to do and how we can bring that to the world and how we can make a big difference on everyone's lives, whether we're teachers, whether we're parents, whether we're involved in any part of learning. And that really struck me, that actually that is what Education on Fire is as a whole, even though there were these 2 different podcasts under that brand. Of course, I'm also producing a podcast for the National Association for Primary Education, a wonderful association here in the UK, of which I'm very proud to be the vice chair. And their whole essence is actually child-centred learning, and that's why I'm so pleased that they're still sponsoring the Education on Fire podcast. And actually, that is the essence of what that's all about, being able to bring people together to be able to really give as much emphasis as possible on being able to steer the education community into actually having a child-focused idea of what learning is all about. Now, I talked a little bit about time and how that's been slightly pressured for me in terms of all my other teaching and performing commitments. And I wondered whether actually the way forward, based on the numbers that I've been looking at in terms of my stats and my downloads, and also the feedback from you actually getting in touch and sending me details and support, which I've been so very grateful for, is whether actually I did everything that you're sort of told to do in terms of niching down, which is why I was sort of separated Education on Fire and Learning on Fire. But I think because the essence is the same, because actually it's all about lighting a fire, it's about sharing these ideals to actually give children everything that they need in order to live an authentic life and to be the best people that they can with the skills and the understanding that they have. That I wanted to do is to actually decide to combine those 2 podcasts so that we actually just had one name and one umbrella that we could actually join together and just be educators on fire, as it were. And the other thing was that what I realised is that everyone here, it's the community which is important. It's the messages and the people that I know who want to be involved in this, and actually finding a way for people to get involved in a different way, in an easier way. And I've decided what I'd like to do is to build an Education on Fire community, almost like a campfire scenario where people can share their ideas, share their experiences, share their stories, and actually we can actually have an area that we can talk privately as a group of people that want to be involved in that. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that over the coming weeks. Now, part of my thought process often is actually how do I get from step A all the way to step Z in one fell swoop, and of course that one, you never know how that's going to be, and also you end up not really starting and getting going. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the first step, and that first step is by actually stopping Learning on Fire as a podcast and actually amalgamating it all back together with Education on Fire. Now what that means from a practical point of view is while I was going to do a math season on Education on Fire, I'm not going to do that now. Partly because it didn't quite work out in the planning, but also partly because I've had so many people get in contact with me and say, oh, they'd like to be on the show and they'd like to share some of the things that they're doing, which I think would be incredibly valuable. But I wasn't able to kind of fit it in under the sort of structure that we had. And also some projects and some things which I'd love to be able to work on and share with you, which would never actually have fitted in that kind of way that we were doing before. And also, Learning on Fire had so many great things and so many bits of wisdom and resources that we were sharing that I know some of you who listen to both podcasts would have got the benefit from, but not necessarily everybody individually within the separate podcasts. And I thought, actually, if we want to build a community, if we want to have one place where everyone is going to be and everyone can actually enjoy being part of a campfire community where we can support children and all those who are working and living with children, then actually having one brand, having one heading, having one place where we can all go, I think is going to be the most supportive thing that we can possibly do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to release some of the Learning on Fire podcasts that I've done, and there are over 50 of them, is to actually bring them into Education on Fire. I'm going to release them exactly as they are, as they were released on Learning on Fire, because I think as an Education on Fire listener, you'll really enjoy those. I think there'll be something, there's so much value in there, so much impetus and forward thinking and a real understanding of what learning is all about and how that fits in the school system, and also how it fits around what you're doing and how you can make that work for your working life if you're a teacher, but also if you're a parent, and how you deal with children that are actually involved in your life. So while we're going to stop Learning on Fire, we can amalgamate those in so we don't lose that, but we're also going to bring in elements of Learning on Fire in terms of some of the questions that I asked on there, in terms of school experiences, teachers that have made a big impact, some of the resources that you would have done, some of the greatest advice that people have ever been done, and bring that into the questions that I'm going to ask on Education on Fire as well. So week on week, we're going to have these podcasts which are going to give you all that great value, which I hope you share with other colleagues, with other parents, that you can listen to with your children. I think all of that's going to be incredibly important. But I think the overall focus beyond that, as I said, is going to be able to create this campfire, this firelighting campfire community. And for that, what I want to do is I want to have this community where we can have this conversation about what sort of resources we can actually have that I'd like you to then be able to gift to your children and the children in your lives. Whether that might be video content, extra audio content created in a way that really speaks to children and teenagers especially, and how that can really work for them and give them the skills that they need. And of course, the one thing that I'm beginning, certainly myself, to realise is that you don't know when that's going to be. You know, it might be something related to finance, it might be something to do with well-being, it might be something to do with life generally that children need, but that might be at a different time for every child. But actually to have access to all of these things under one roof, under an Education on Fire area, where they can go in and have access to it and see it in the comfort and the support and the security of an area where they feel really, really supported, I think would be a really great thing. It might be that as a teacher you can give access to children as they leave your school or leave your class. It might be something you give access to as a parent or as a grandparent, or if you work with children that you just think these things could just make all the difference to their life. They might not want to talk to you one-to-one, but you might just give them information or give them support, almost like a mentorship in how that goes forward. So as I said, I'm not 100% sure how that's going to look going on. I think it's going to involve the ability to have a Patreon account so that actually you can support, where you can support financially. There's going to be a place where we can talk privately. There's going to be the idea of whether we do it through videos, whether you gift these things, whether we turn the whole thing into a charity, whether we're able to bring everybody together and have a live event. There's so many things that we can do, so many options that's actually possible. And that's what we're going to start to discuss and start to work out as we go forward. So as I said, so many things have gone on, so many things have happened, so many things have gone through my head. But I think the first thing to do is to realise that my personal life is very complex and very different, and also about my passion. And my passion, as I've always mentioned, is about music. And so being able to look after my professional playing career, to be able to look after my teaching career and give those students and all those people that I work with there my best attention is really, really important. I think to be able to have Education on Fire is something which is very easily defined. It's a podcast, it's a community of people wanting to share their passion, to share their ability to light the fire in the children that are involved in those, and to give them support and also experiences and understanding of how other people have done that as well, both within the education system, within the family system, and in the world at large. And that, I think, really makes a lot of sense to me, and I think it's something that we can all relate to and we can all bring together. So over the next few weeks, I'm going to talk a little bit more about this in terms of my journey, how I've got here and how I see this going forward, how you can get involved, and then we can really have that discussion about how it's going to become this campfire community, which we can really start to evolve and make a real difference and a contribution to the world. And that's the most important thing. How are we going to make a difference to those children that really need it, both in our lives and also around the world, that we'll be able to support through these ideas and these concepts, and bringing everybody together that we get to communicate with it and talk to through the podcast. So thanks very much for listening today. As I said, I'll be back next week talking a little bit more about this and a little bit more detail in what I'm thinking and what I'm discussing, and exactly how you can get involved and how we can move this forward. So have a fantastic week, and I look forward to chatting to you again next week. Thanks for listening to the Education on Fire podcast. For more information of each episode and to get in touch, go to educationonfire.com. Education is not the filling of a pail, but the lighting of a fire.